have just entered the casual conversations of the Uneducated Education Talk Show. I'm your host, Jay. We'll talk about lots of things, so join the conversation. Welcome to another episode of the Uneducated Education Talk Show. Today we have a really good show ahead for you. What I want to do is, before we get into the topic, I'm going to introduce you to the panel. So today we have Chris Thompson, and he is going to promote basic skills later on in the show. We have Raja Lee, who is supporting and promoting natural hair, and she'll tell you all about that later. And then we also have Reese, who has an up-and-coming fashion brand, and she'll tell you all about it a little bit later in the show. Before we get into the topic, as always, I want to take this moment to get you all to understand where I'm coming from. In order to do anything successfully, sometimes it requires support from others. For this platform, all you have to do is subscribe. That's it. Doesn't cost you anything. You get a bunch of nuggets for free. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like and share with someone else, because I'm sure you'll know someone that could benefit from the topics that we discuss. Okay, with that out the way, let's get into it. Today's episode, we're talking about self-discovery, okay? Self-discovery and navigating through life. I've said this in another show. A lot of what we talk about here seems like it should be self-explanatory or stuff that you can come to on your own. But the reality is sometimes we need a little push. Sometimes you need to hear something just from someone different. And sometimes you need a different perspective. And that's what we're trying to provide here. So as always, I got a couple questions to guide us through the topic of discussion, okay? First question, let's go ahead and get into it. Do you have a plan? And Mr. Thompson, we're going to kick it off with you. Why is that question even important?
The only male on the telecast.
Yes,
Start off.
You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to hold your own.
Go ahead now.
Do you have a plan? From a personal perspective, I do have a plan. But I have learned over time to always have alternate things set up in case that plan doesn't come to fruition. Like a lot of times in my life, I plan certain things out, like when I'm going to be married, when I'm going to start this certain career, when I'm going to own my own business, when I'm going to buy a house, when I'm going to have kids, and none of it went according to plan. So I learned to know who I am first, and then just kind of float along with the way life is going. Now, my plan is always in the back of my mind, and my bullet points are always in the back of my mind, but I've learned how to float a bit and be okay with those things not working out the way that I always plan.
Reese, what you got?
So I would say very similar to what Chris just said. Like I've had time to be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And this is how I'm going to do it. And then I turn around and I'm like, none of that happened how anything the way I planned it to be. So I've had that goal in mind though. So like you said, the bullet points, I have that goal in mind and I make sure like I keep tunnel vision on that goal, but I've learned to be adaptable and be patient with myself in reaching that goal.
Raja Lee, what do you have?
Like both of you said, it's always like, you have a plan set, but the way that you're going to go about the plan doesn't always go as you feel it will. Or you'll have a plan and then something will hold you back, or you feel like you're taking 10 steps forward and 1 step back. So it's like, are you really going with the plan? Are you going to reach your goal how you want to? Is it like what you're picturing in your mind, not all the time, but the way that you get there is ultimately what you're looking for, and that's just what you have to focus on. Like the plan is a big part, but it's not the only part that matters. So do I have a plan? Yes. Am I willing to change it? Yes. There's multiple things that go into a plan and self-discovery. So I just think self-discovery is not always about a plan, because you're discovering yourself and there's always time to discover yourself. So a plan isn't always needed.
Okay, and this is why I like the panel, because it gives you different perspectives and points of view, because sometimes we're in different places in life, and I probably wouldn't have hit that point, because in my mind, just because I've lived a little, I know I need a plan.
Right.
But like all of you said, the plan is what you want to do is not always going to go according to plan. However, let's start with, I asked, do you have a plan? But for some people, first of all, do you even understand the need for a plan? So
Right.
We're talking about self-discovery, and we're talking about navigating through life. If you don't have a plan, and just to make it plain, a plan could be, I want to be a teacher when I grow up, or I want to be a mother. I want to be a doctor. I want to have my own business. So if you don't have a plan for your life, then you're not moving in the direction that you need to knock out the things required to fulfill that, whatever that desire or that dream or that goal is. Using the example, I want to be a teacher.
Okay.
Well, you look up what it takes to be a teacher. You know how much schooling you need, what classes you need. So you're on that path. But for some reason, school is just not for you. Like, I want to be a teacher, but this just is not working out for me. But you're on a plan, so you've been moving somewhere. So even when you get off course, you're still moving.
Right.
But one of you touched on patience, and that is so necessary with the plan, because we already talked about everything doesn't always go to plan. And then sometimes things take longer, than you expected. So you got to have patience, not only with the process, but with yourself.
When I'm doing certain things, I rely on two words: intentionality and arranging.
Okay.
So whatever I'm in that at that moment, because things change, I never knew that I was going to be a motivational speaker. I was always terrified of the stage, different things like that. But when I started my nonprofit, it required me to do a lot of motivational speaking. So once I got into motivational speaking, I was really, really intentional about learning stage presence, learning how to execute a speech, learning how to start my introduction without giving too much away by the time I get to the end of my speech. So I studied everything I could about, motivational speaking. So sometimes when life doesn't go your way, or when something doesn't go as planned, when the next thing comes up, you got to be intentional about that next thing. And then the planning starts again. So you're constantly planning over and over and over and over again. And then that's when the arranging starts. Like, I didn't know I was going to do this, so now I got to make this priority.
Mm-hmm.
I got to put, when you was talking about a teacher, I got to kind of put the teacher thing on the back burner, because I didn't even know this fresh thing was coming.
Just because you have a plan doesn't mean that the plan doesn't get revised along the way.
Right.
Okay.
Always.
Yes. So if the plan changes because you're just not, maybe you're not willing to do the work that it requires. That's a big point.
That's a big point.
Yeah. And we'll hit on that a little bit later. And then another thing is, maybe you're just not capable. Sometimes we shoot high, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you should do that, because if you fall somewhere in between, you're still off the ground. So there's a lot of reasons for the plan to change. And it doesn't mean, don't keep bumping your head though. And I talked about this in another video. If it's just not working out, it's what you want, it's what you thought you wanted. Maybe because the money is good, or, it seems like it's along the lines of what you want to do. But if it's not realistic, and once you get to trying a couple times and it doesn't work out for you, you'll know whether or not it just was not for you, or if you need to change it. So don't let that deter you, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Now, this is kind of a big jump, but I like the open space between. So we just talked about having a plan, the importance of having a plan, all of that. Are you where you want to be? And that's a loaded question. Rajali, you want to start?
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
So are you me where I want to be? No, no, I'm not. Oh, I'm not even close to where I want to be. I think that everything has a spectrum. I see everything as a spectrum. I think there's, there's a far right side, there's a far left side, and then there's a middle.
Okay.
I don't even think I'm to the middle yet. I think that I'm far left and I want to be far right. I just think that as far as like the planning and everything goes for your end goal, I think that I have an end goal, but I think that a lot of times I want to change it. I think a lot of times that my end goal is not really where I want to be at the end. Sometimes you just go through things on a day-to-day basis and you just kind of see what you want for yourself. You kind of see what you're surrounded by, what you want to do, what you don't like. And it's just like your end goal can change every day based off what you're seeing or what you're feeling. And I just think that me personally, I am still changing. I'm still young. I'm only 19. So my day-to-day is totally different from everyone else. So I just think that personally, my end goal is nowhere near, and I am nowhere near where I would like to be or even want to be.
So before the other two panelists chime in on this, I started with you because you're the youngest on the panel. And I like what you said though, because in my notes here, the question in and of itself was, are you where you want to be? You touched on the fact that you at least know who you want to be, because if you didn't, you wouldn't realize that you're not there yet.
Yeah, because you have to be who you want to be to know where you want to be, because you can't be in a place that you would like to be and not be the person that you want to be. Your end goal has to fit like who you are, has to fit your environment, your area. You have to go hand in hand with what you're doing in your life. So I just feel like I'm on different pages with myself, and we need to get on the same page to get where we want to be.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna come back to what I have to go, but Reese, what you got on that topic?
So I would say, as far as like right now at this stage in my life, I feel like I'm at a good place. Like I feel like I am where I want to be right now. Of course, there's always room for improvement. And like I heard something earlier today, and it was talking about stretch marks. So when you grow, get bigger, get smaller, you'll get stretch marks. And that also happens like with yourself and with growth. So like when you're growing as a person, you got to sometimes like stretch it out a little bit. And then sometimes like you were saying, Raj, like with the 2 steps back or the 2 steps forward, like, it'll fluctuate. Sometimes it'll be like, okay, it might get a little smaller, get a little bigger. So it's like those stretch marks of growth within yourself. So
no, I'm not where I want to be, but it's because of me. It's not because of the progression doesn't work. It's absolutely because of me. Because if I really, I teach time management to kids all the time. If I really honed in on what I teach those kids and really practice it day after day after day after day, now I might give you 3 days of it and go really good. But that 4th day is like, nah, I just want to relax today. So no.
As far as myself, I know I'm not where I want to be, but I'm also not mad with where I am, if that makes sense. But I'm not stopping, because I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. But I'm on a good trajectory to get to where I want to be. But the other side of the where you want to be is the who you want to be. And I want to spend a little bit of time on that. And I'll start this off. When I ask, are you who you want to be? Because what I'm finding is, I feel like our youngsters kind of have the game messed up, if you will. Just put it out there like that. When I say, are you who you want to be? I've listened to young girls, mainly because that's who I interact with. I've listened to young girls tell me that they gotta keep it real. Okay. And I say, well, what does that look like? What does that mean? Because I think I keep it real. I'm a real genuine, authentic person. But to you, when you say that, what does keep it real mean? And what I get is they gotta be the same all the time. I gotta be myself. And I said, so the way you're talking to me right now, because it's cool, we just in a casual setting, the way you're talking to me right now, if you got to keep it real by your definition. So when you go to a job interview, you're going to be that same person when you show up there. When you go to school, you're going to be that same person. When you talking to your parents, hopefully not, you're going to be that same person that you are when you kicking it, talking with your friends. And I think that they don't understand that that has nothing to do with keeping it real. You can be your same genuine self, but you need to be able to camouflage. And that's not being fake. It's adapting. So when I ask, are you who you want to be? Maybe you keep getting fired from a job, or maybe you can't get hired on a job. It could be your qualifications, but it could be something within yourself that you need to change. So it is okay to be different. I am a different person. This is what I tell people. I'm who I need to be when I need to be.
Right.
When I'm sitting around talking to my friends, that's one version of me. When I go to work, although if I started a new job, I would be a different person. It's just, there's a whole nother conversation, because sometimes you get comfortable and you get in all honesty, that's kind of where I am. But people know me. So I have the liberty of being that same person, when I go to work. But if I'm meeting someone, a business transaction for the first time, I don't go and greet them like I would my friends. I have some business attitude about myself. I'm conducting myself the way that I want to be perceived. Mm-hmm. So if you're not who you want to be, you can change it. That is, I did all that just to say, you can change it, and you can change it daily. I heard it somewhere, and I think I read it somewhere, and I don't remember where. I apologize. But it simply said, you're not married to yourself. You don't have to come home to the same person every day. If you determine within yourself, you know what, I'm a very selfish person. I'm a very stingy person. I am a little mean, or, I was not a good friend. Once you identify those things in yourself, change them.
I think self-reflecting is so important. And you're touching on that right now, to just sit back and just really look at the overall picture and self-reflect is on a daily basis. I think that's something that's really important. And I feel like not everybody does that. It'll be more pointing the finger, this person and this person did this to me. No, step back, self-reflect, collect yourself, and then revisit the situation.
What advice or what tidbit or nugget, Jim, would you give your younger self?
I've noticed, when you're moving through different stages in life, sometimes you're in that alone season where you have to attack a goal and you just can't have any distractions. And sometimes you lose some of those friends you grew up with just because they're not as focused as you are. So it's like finding those friendships that are meaningful and knowing how to basically arrange those friendships, but keep them in your life. Because I did a lot of that coming up, and I'm just like, oh, okay, you're not where I am, so we're going to sit you on the back burner. Then I lost that friend. Then I moved to another stage in life, and I said, you're not where I am, so then I lost that friend. Until you get to a point where you're at your older age and you got 3 friends when you could have had 10. I would tell myself to be patient. Mm-hmm. Be more patient about life and not always jump into the next thing, trying to, and it had to do with a lot of comparison, how I saw myself in comparison to other people. So I would jump out there and try to do something new just because somebody else wasn't doing it, or they were doing it and I wanted to do it better. Save money. That's self-explanatory. Talk to some people about credit. This is the big one. This is my last one. It's master one thing. I'm one of those types of people that if you put me in any arena, I can excel just enough. If I started motivational speaking tomorrow, I can excel at it. If I started being a basketball coach tomorrow, I can excel at it. But I never personally, that's my biggest nag about myself. I never mastered one thing. And you got people like LeBron, Serena Williams, all the singers, all the political people, they mastered one thing.
Roger Lee, what you got?
Yeah, that was a good segue into me. I was thinking the same thing. As you said it, like, I'm thinking of what have I mastered, and I'm thinking like in a way, you know, I have mastered my one thing that I'm just like, you know, it's something that I like to do. It'll carry me far, you know, it'll make me who I am, who I want to be. It just kind of matches. It's kind of like the center of everything I would want to be and want to do, which is like comforting advice, you know, stuff like that. Like you mentioned psychology earlier, just ironically, you know, that is my major. I'm in college now. It's my major for industrial and marriage and counseling psychology. And it's always been something that I like to do. I think that is one thing that I have mastered because, as you said, like, I've always done everything, you know. I think if I was to give advice to my younger self, like, I think that this would be the time that I would give the advice to myself, because I think that this is the time that I need it the most personally.
Whoa.
Because
that was good.
Very
before,
nice.
I feel like, I said I'm only 19 years old. So before, you know, I feel like that's your time to like mess up, make mistakes, you know. Like, you're still going to get in trouble. There's still repercussions. There's still things that follow you from that age. But, you know, 18 on down, like, that's your time to mess up. That's your time to figure out what you want to do, you know. When are you going to really need the advice that everyone's giving you? You know, when are you going to put it to use? When it's it going to stop going out one ear and the other? And, you know, you're going to put it to use. So I think that this is the time. I think that this is the greatest time for me to do stuff like that and to give myself advice, because I am young. I'm just starting. And I think that psychology is the one thing that I have mastered, and it will carry me very, very far. I have plans on getting my PhD, opening my own firm, helping other people, doing stuff like that. And that is the one thing that I have and I am still working on mastering. You know, I've done everything. I've played sports, I've played instruments, stuff like that. I've traveled, I've done all that. I've started a lot of things, but I haven't finished them. And I just think that if I was to give myself advice, you have to be open to things. You have to go through things. I think that this stage right now is the stage that like you have to go through alone. Like 19, you know, it's your time to be like, you know, you're 19, you're in college, you're living. So I think like that's the time for this, but it's also a time for you, like, it is your self-discovery.
I'm getting chills over here.
I'm so proud.
To acknowledge, okay, the jewels that are being dropped.
Goodness.
And I am here for it, okay?
That's the nugget.
Listen.
That is crazy. You said that earlier. You were talking about when things change, like, you know, you have a plan and things change. I think that when you were saying like you're not really like getting away from your end goal, but it's just like changing. And I think that when things change, it gives you little nuggets of things that you can keep building on, because there's still little gems and everything that is changing for your goal. So I think that was good that you said that, because it made me think of it, because I was thinking that earlier. Every time your plan changes, it gives you like little nuggets or little gems to keep doing and keep building on what you want to do, even though it's not your original plan or goal. Because you can still keep adding, and then the things that you failed at, you're learning from. So, you know, you're always going back.
That is speed.
Get going.
Listen, I'm here for all of that. Listen, before Raja Lee just takes the show away, because she's dropping them, okay? Reese, what you got for us?
Goodness. That was beautiful. I love that. Wow. Okay, so I would tell my younger self to also be more patient. I am such a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist to a fault. Like, it's like, this has to be so perfect, and it has to be 100, like, I cannot move away from this one thing unless it's a million%.
Oh, that's crazy.
But then at the same time, I have all this other stuff I want to do. Like, I would definitely tell my younger self, be more patient with yourself, let yourself breathe. Because when I was in, like, I've always been independent my whole life. And when I was in high school, I knew from a young age already what I wanted to be. So when I was in high school, I was like, I'm gonna grind, I'm gonna get it. Like, I'm gonna try to do this job. I'm gonna do this job. I was in cosmetology. I got my license and everything. And I was doing all these little things. And then I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Like, I got jumbled in everything that was going on because I was like, I want to be an expert at everything. I want to be great at everything. And it got to a point where I threw myself off track because I was like, whoa, I'm trying to be a perfectionist at all these little things and doing all these things. And I just found myself lost. Like, literally, I was just like, I don't even know where I am right now. I don't know what I'm doing. I have this cosmetology license. Do I use it? Do I move on to something else? Because I've always wanted to be a fashion designer. Even as a young girl, I knew this is what I want to be. This is what I want to do. But I was doing all these other things that didn't really have anything in connection with that specifically.
That's a good point that you bring up, though, because it kind of ties in with what Chris said. So you got, on one hand, you know, he's saying how he didn't master anything, any one thing, but he's really good at a lot of things. And then here you come and you're like a perfectionist in everything that you do. You want to be really, really, really good at.
Yeah.
And even though you're pointing out kind of the negative, for those that are listening, if anyone is like that, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because some people thrive in those areas. Some people will never master one thing, but everything that they do, they're good at. You know, they're good enough at, and that's okay for some people. And then you have the other side of people, kind of to your point, Chris, what you said. So Reese, you have the LeBrons and you have the you know, the people that have mastered like their particular craft.
Right. Yeah.
And there you are, but you just have more than one craft, you know, that you are really good at and have mastered. So I think the healthy balance is somewhere in between. But for anyone listening that can identify with either of you, I want them to know that it's not a bad thing. And there's a theme with me. People will start to notice the more that you listen. I kind of love to be, I don't like the term devil's advocate, but I always like to play the middle. I'm not wishy-washy, but I like to play the middle as far as I can understand both sides. I see the beauty in both sides and I can point it out. So I just want to make sure that I take a little time to acknowledge that, because I don't want anyone watching to get discouraged. Conversation.